Some celebrities believed they were untouchable, above the law, beyond criticism, immune to consequences. But as you'll see, reality doesn't spare the entitled. In Top 20 Times entitled Celebrities Ruined Their Own Lives, we're looking at stars who acted like the rules didn't apply to them, until they were slammed with lawsuits, public disgrace, and even jail time. From Ezra Miller's chaotic arrests to Armie Hammer's disturbing downfall, these aren't just slip-ups, they're total career meltdowns. What exactly happened? Stick with us. We're breaking down the shocking truth behind every scandal that left Hollywood reeling. Ezra Miller. Before 2020, Ezra Miller was riding high in Hollywood. With major roles in the Fantastic Beasts series and as the Flash in the DC universe, Miller seemed unstoppable, a rising star with fan adoration and industry respect. But that all came crashing down in one shocking moment. In 2020, Miller was caught on video in Iceland, involved in a physical altercation with a woman, a clip that shattered their clean public image and sent shockwaves through fans and the media. Things only got worse. By 2022, Miller's behavior had turned increasingly erratic. They were arrested multiple times in Hawaii and accused of disturbing actions that raised serious concerns. One particularly unsettling case involved a Vermont ranch where reports claimed Miller had placed a mother and her child in a questionable living environment. Court documents revealed that the property owner had known Miller for nearly 2 decades, but even that long-standing friendship wasn't enough to prevent a fallout. Even Miller's mother admitted the situation had deteriorated. With public trust broken and controversy mounting, DC began questioning Miller's future in the franchise. Though the Flash solo film was released in 2023, but since then Miller has vanished from the spotlight, with no acting roles announced to date. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer rocketed to fame after 2017's Call Me By Your Name, scooping up award nods and landing on every next big thing list in town. Yet his meteoric rise soon crashed into one of the most talked about Hollywood scandals of the decade. In 2021, several women leveled disturbing accusations of personal misconduct, including claims that Hammer fantasized about consuming his partners. His only public pushback came in a tense interview, and I will say this, there are people that I left who were hurt and who were upset. None of those people were hurt or upset because I pushed any sexual boundaries that they weren't interested in exploring or trying. Public opinion wasn't convinced. Studio doors slammed shut, and after a brief turn in 2022's Death on the Nile, Hammer retreated to the Cayman Islands to sell timeshares, hardly the marquee life he once commanded. By 2024, he resurfaced with the Armie Hammer Time, where he seemed more interested in monologuing about himself than spotlighting his guests. Now eyeing a film comeback, Hammer is poised to step back onto the screen, just not on the pedestal he once enjoyed. Before we dive deeper into the darkest collapse, yes, we're talking about Sean Diddy Combs. Tell us, which country are you watching from? Drop your flag in the comments below and stay with us until the end. The wildest twist is still coming. Alec and Baldwin. Few celebrity couples have managed to irritate the public quite like Alec and Hilaria Baldwin, a duo whose entitlement has turned them into recurring characters in modern Hollywood scandals. In 2018, Alec made headlines for all the wrong reasons after an argument over a parking spot in New York escalated into a physical confrontation. The man involved, Wojciech Ciskowski, accused Alec of lashing out. Hours later, cameras caught the actor storming out of the NYPD's 6th precinct, scowling in silence as he climbed into a black car. He didn't speak, and he didn't need to. His expression said it all. Alec later pleaded guilty to harassment and was ordered to attend anger management classes. But instead of letting it go, he turned around and sued Ciskowski for defamation. In the lawsuit, Ciskowski called Alec entitled, and whether or not you agree, the damage to Alec's reputation was done. The case quietly wrapped up in 2022. Meanwhile, Hilaria Baldwin ignited her own firestorm. In 2020, internet sleuths accused her of faking a Spanish identity for years, complete with an accent, cultural references, and even moments where she forgot the English word for cucumber. In response, she said, "Love English, I also love Spanish. And when I mix the two, it doesn't make me inauthentic. When I mix the two, that makes me normal." But the backlash was brutal, and not even Alec could save her from it. The couple's attempts at damage control only fueled more criticism. In the court of public opinion, their credibility had already collapsed. Sean Diddy Combs, once a towering figure in music and fashion, now finds himself at the center of one of the most explosive Hollywood scandals in recent memory. In May 2025, Combs faces a federal trial in Manhattan on charges including racketeering and sex trafficking. Prosecutors allege that over 2 decades, he leveraged his fame and business empire to exploit women, orchestrating events where individuals were allegedly coerced into acts that were recorded without their consent. A pivotal moment in the case involves surveillance footage from 2016 showing Combs physically assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel hallway. This video, released in 2024, led to public outrage and a subsequent apology from Combs, who described his actions as inexcusable. As the trial progresses, Combs' defense team argues that any misconduct was part of a consensual lifestyle, attempting to portray the relationship with Ventura as mutually aggressive. However, prosecutors are prepared to present testimony from multiple accusers detailing a pattern of coercion and abuse. The jury selection process has been intense, with potential jurors being questioned about their ability to remain impartial, especially after viewing the disturbing footage. Opening statements are scheduled to begin on May 12, 2025. Once celebrated for his contributions to music and fashion, Combs now confronts a potential life sentence, marking a dramatic fall from grace in the annals of celebrity history. Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes wasn't just a startup founder, she was a media darling, hailed as the next Steve Jobs for claiming she'd revolutionize healthcare with a single drop of blood. Through her company Theranos, Holmes promised her tests could detect deadly diseases like cancer before symptoms even appeared. Investors, government officials, and even the public wanted to believe. The idea was bold, futuristic, and completely false. While Holmes smiled in interviews and headlined magazine covers, insiders were sounding the alarm. One expert put it plainly: "It's unconscionable, it's unethical." Behind the scenes, Theranos was a ticking time bomb. Its technology didn't work, its results were unreliable, and its promises were built on deception. When the truth finally came out, the illusion shattered overnight. Holmes's reputation and her billion-dollar net worth vanished. In 2022, she was found guilty on 4 counts of fraud. By May 2023, she began serving an 11-year sentence. Though some felt she got off easy for not being convicted of defrauding patients directly, others saw it as long overdue justice. What started as a tale of innovation became one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals ever linked to the tech world. A chilling reminder of how ambition without accountability can destroy everything. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow was born into Hollywood royalty, but fame didn't come with public approval. Despite her polished image and carefully curated celebrity interviews, she's long struggled to shake off the Nepo baby label, and truthfully, her own actions haven't helped. In 2013, she earned an infamous title, the most hated celebrity in the world, a spot usually reserved for those with far darker headlines. But Paltrow's downfall came not from scandal, but from tone-deaf arrogance. In 2014, she made waves for claiming that being an actress and a mum was harder than holding down a regular job. That one comment alone was enough to spark a public outcry, and it cemented her image as deeply out of touch. Things got no better in 2022. After winning a lawsuit involving a ski crash, Paltrow turned heads once again. Her message to the losing party? "I wish you well." Those 4 words were seen by many as cold and condescending, even if they were said with a smile. And then there's Goop, her controversial wellness brand that's launched some of the most bizarre products in pop culture history. From questionable health claims to eyebrow-raising items, Goop has become a punchline, and so has Paltrow. In the end, Gwyneth Paltrow didn't need a scandal to ruin her public image. Her words, her products, and her entitlement did all the work for her. Mickey Rourke. Once hailed for his haunting performance in The Wrestler, Mickey Rourke has spent years trying to revive a career riddled with misfires and missed chances. But by 2025, the Hollywood veteran made a desperate move, signing up for the UK's Celebrity Big Brother. What was supposed to be a comeback quickly turned into a catastrophe. From the moment he stepped on stage, viewers were stunned. Rourke's behavior during his first live appearance came off as uncomfortably inappropriate toward co-host AJ Odudu. Things got worse when he made rude and offensive remarks to fellow contestant Jojo Siwa, comments that sparked immediate backlash. The tipping point came when he directed aggressive language at housemate Chris Hughes, forcing producers to remove him from the show entirely. Speculation exploded. Some viewers believed Rourke wanted out from the beginning and intentionally sabotaged his stay to get booted. Instead of taking accountability, Rourke reportedly explored legal action against ITV, claiming financial loss. As if that weren't enough, whispers of a behind-the-scenes conflict during the filming of Girl with Bella Thorne only fueled the flames. What was meant to be a redemption arc has now turned into one of the most bizarre collapses in recent Hollywood scandals. Steven Seagal. Once a towering figure in 90s action cinema, Steven Seagal's career has crumbled under the weight of his own arrogance. In 2022, the actor raised eyebrows with a bold claim, not about a new project, but about a script he wrote himself. "I tried to write it based on things that have happened to me and friends of mine," he said, calling it incredible. Critics weren't so sure. By the 2000s, Seagal had drifted far from the spotlight, reduced to a steady stream of direct-to-video titles. But behind the scenes, the whispers were louder than the films, tales of a swollen ego, unprofessional behavior, and a long trail of controversy that decimated his standing in the industry. With doors closing fast in Hollywood, Seagal rebranded himself on the international stage, most notably as a vocal supporter of Vladimir Putin. In a stunning twist, he was appointed as Russia's special envoy to the United States in 2018, making headlines once again, but for all the wrong reasons. "I love America, I love Russia," he insisted, framing his new role as a bridge between nations. But for fans who once saw him as an action hero, this strange diplomatic pivot only deepened the disappointment. Paula Deen. Paula Deen once ruled the culinary world, releasing best-selling cookbooks, owning successful restaurants, and lighting up Food Network with her southern charm. But in 2013, her empire crumbled almost overnight. While facing a discrimination lawsuit, Deen was asked whether she had ever used a racial slur. Her blunt reply, "Of course." She even described multiple occasions when she had said it. That single admission triggered a firestorm. Her TV shows were dropped, major endorsements disappeared, and the once-beloved chef became a pariah in the industry. But it didn't stop there. In a tense Today Show interview, Deen's entitled attitude made things worse. She claimed she wouldn't have fired herself, and bizarrely questioned whether the slur was even offensive, saying, "I don't know, Matt, I have asked myself that so many times." Her response didn't just damage her brand, it became one of the most unforgettable moments in Hollywood gossip history. Though she's clawed her way back with minor gigs, she's never regained the empire she lost. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. When It Ends With Us hit theaters in 2024, fans expected a romantic drama. What they got was a full-blown Hollywood scandal. The film didn't just flop with critics, it exploded behind the scenes, wrecking the reputations of both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It all started when an old 2016 interview resurfaced. Lively, while promoting Cafe Society, was caught on camera displaying icy hostility toward journalist Cheryl Flo. The clip went viral, and just as the backlash swelled, things took a darker turn. Allegations soon emerged from the It Ends With Us set. Lively accused Baldoni, who also directed the film, of inappropriate on-set behavior, claims that involved physical contact she described as unwelcome. Baldoni didn't just deny the allegations, he hit back hard, filing a $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, the outlet that broke the story. But that wasn't all. In a shocking twist, Baldoni also filed a second lawsuit targeting Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds. Why? For allegedly mocking him through a parody character named Nice Poolool in the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine, and for reportedly sneaking an entire scene into It Ends With Us without the director's knowledge. As the lawsuits pile up and friendships fall apart, one thing's clear: this is a drama no script could have predicted. Do you think Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's behind-the-scenes feud ruined the entire film? Comment yes if it changed how you see them, or no if you think it's all blown out of proportion. Let's see where the audience really stands. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres rose to daytime royalty the moment The Ellen DeGeneres Show premiered in 2003. Her emotional moments, feel-good giveaways, and upbeat energy made her a household name. But behind the cheerful facade, whispers of a very different reality started brewing. By 2020, the rumors exploded into public view. Several former staffers spoke out, revealing a toxic workplace riddled with intimidation, discrimination, and retaliation, claims that rocked Hollywood. Some employees said they were threatened for taking medical or bereavement leave. Others spoke of disturbing behavior from senior producers. The image of Ellen as the kind-hearted host started to unravel. Though DeGeneres addressed the backlash with an on-air apology, it wasn't enough to stop the exodus of viewers. The show lost over 1 million fans in a matter of months, and by 2022, it officially ended after 19 seasons. But Ellen didn't stop there. In 2024, during a stand-up performance, she quipped that she was kicked out of show business for being mean, a line that only added fuel to her already fragile public image. Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez built her brand on glitz, talent, and red carpet fashion, but in recent years, the shine has started to fade. In 2024, at the Met Gala, a viral moment sparked criticism when Lopez brushed off a reporter's question about her outfit with a curt reply before striding away. Fans called it dismissive. Critics called it entitled. That was only the beginning. Stories soon resurfaced of Lopez being difficult with airport staff at a private terminal, with insiders claiming she made impossible demands and treated employees poorly. Then came the shocking clip, an old behind-the-scenes video showing Lopez spitting gum into a production assistant's hand. The footage quickly ignited fresh outrage online. To top it off, the highly publicized reunion with Ben Affleck, once celebrated as a fairy tale rekindling, began to crumble, and by the end of 2024, the split was official. Now the same social media platforms that once adored her are flooded with backlash. And despite Lopez's attempts to embrace her identity with messages like, "This is me, love me or leave me," her reputation has taken a hit she may not bounce back from. Jay Thomas. Badmouthing your co-star isn't just unprofessional, it can end your career. Just ask Jay Thomas. In 1987, he landed a recurring role on Cheers as Eddie LeBeck, the quirky hockey player who became Carla's love interest, played by Rhea Perlman. But in 1989, Thomas made a fatal misstep. While hosting his radio show, a caller asked him about working on Cheers. His response, he described the experience as brutal, apparently referring to filming romantic scenes with Perlman. Word quickly got back to the show's producers, and in the tight-knit world of Cheers, that kind of public disrespect didn't fly. Thomas was fired. Not only was his character killed off screen, but Eddie's exit was laced with insult. He was written out as a secret polygamist who died tragically off camera. It was a swift and ruthless move that turned a rising star into a cautionary tale. Another name added to the long list of Hollywood scandals where ego got the final word. Steve Whitmire. For decades, Steve Whitmire was the man behind one of the most iconic voices in entertainment, Kermit the Frog. After Jim Henson's passing in 1990, Whitmire took the reins, becoming the new voice of the Muppets. With hit shows and films, it seemed like he had a lifetime gig. But in 2017, that illusion shattered. Whitmire was suddenly fired, replaced by Matt Vogel, and fans were stunned. Behind the scenes, however, the story was darker. According to the Henson family, Whitmire had become notoriously difficult to work with. He allegedly sent disrespectful messages to Muppet staff, refused to collaborate with younger performers, and even declined to train an understudy for public appearances. Producers described years of strained interactions, with one blunt statement saying, "He's not Kermit, he's a performer hired to play Kermit. There's a difference." Whitmire claimed he never received a warning, but his downfall became one of the most unexpected character shifts in Muppet history. And while he's spoken out in a few emotional celebrity interviews, the damage was done, proving that not even puppets can protect you from professional consequences. Roseanne Barr. The return of Roseanne in 2018 was a ratings goldmine. After more than 2 decades off the air, fans flooded back to the beloved sitcom, making its revival an unexpected smash hit. But just as quickly as it rose, the show came crashing down, thanks to one tweet from its star, Roseanne Barr. In a moment of shocking judgment, Barr posted a tweet targeting a former senior advisor to President Obama. The backlash was immediate. Trying to stem the outrage, she released an apology video, but instead of damage control, it only added fuel to the fire. "I thought that was white," she said, a statement that left the public and press stunned. Her excuses kept changing, from blaming sleeping pills to claiming racial confusion, but none of it sounded sincere. The damage was done. ABC acted fast. Roseanne was cancelled. In its place came The Connors, a rebranded version of the show that erased all ties to Barr's name and character. James Corden made a splash in 2015 when he crossed the pond to host The Late Late Show. With charm, comedy, and viral sketches, he quickly became a household name. But behind the scenes, a different narrative was brewing, and by 2022, whispers turned to headlines when Corden was accused of mistreating staff at the high-end NYC restaurant Balthazar. According to the owner, Corden lashed out at servers, earning himself a public ban. Though he apologized, he later backtracked, reigniting the drama and frustrating the restaurant's owner all over again. Then came more disturbing accounts, like reports of him refusing to assist his wife with their crying baby on a flight, leaving fellow passengers stunned. The lovable late-night persona from his celebrity interviews began to unravel. The image once built on laughter now seemed tinted with arrogance. And after a growing list of PR disasters, The Late Late Show quietly ended in 2023. It was a sharp fall for a man who once had America laughing in the palm of his hand. Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl seemed destined for A-list success. Her role as Izzy Stevens on Grey's Anatomy made her a household name, and her leap to the big screen, with 2007's Knocked Up, only cemented that rise. But just a year later, Heigl sparked outrage. In a 2008 Vanity Fair interview, she labeled the Judd Apatow comedy as sexist, a bold jab at the very film that helped her career soar. Both Apatow and co-star Seth Rogen pushed back, but the damage was done. Then came another shocker. Heigl withdrew herself from Emmy consideration, publicly criticizing Grey's Anatomy by claiming the writing wasn't strong enough to warrant an award. The move stunned fans and reportedly angered the show's producers. By 2010, whispers of Heigl being difficult turned into headlines after she allegedly stopped showing up on set. The network finally let her out of her contract. Her career didn't vanish, but the red-hot momentum cooled fast. And within the world of Hollywood gossip, few falls from grace were this swift or this self-inflicted. Will Smith. Will Smith once embodied the ultimate Hollywood success story. With charm, blockbuster hits, and a spotless reputation, he was a global icon. But everything changed in a matter of seconds at the 94th Academy Awards in 2022. After comedian Chris Rock made an offhand joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will's reaction stunned the world. He marched onto the stage and slapped Rock live in front of millions. Just moments later, he accepted the Oscar for Best Actor in a surreal twist that left the industry speechless. Fallout came quickly. Smith resigned from the Academy and was banned from its events for the next 10 years. He apologized publicly, calling the act "not who I want to be." But the damage to his carefully built legacy was undeniable. Meanwhile, Jada's reputation also took a hit. Her revelations about a past relationship and claims that the slap somehow saved their marriage added fuel to public skepticism. What began as a moment of fury became a viral turning point, one that redefined how the world saw both of them. Even now, in emotional celebrity interviews, Smith continues to reflect on that night, a moment that turned triumph into controversy in the blink of an eye. On a scale from 1 to 9, how do you feel about Will Smith's Oscar slap? 1 being totally unacceptable to 9 being he did what had to be done. Comment your number below and tell us why. Let the debate begin. Chevy Chase. Once a towering figure in the comedy world of the 80s, Chevy Chase had it all: fame, fortune, and critical acclaim. But as time passed, his once bright star began to dim. Then came a second chance: Community. The hit series gave Chase a surprising career revival, reintroducing him to a new generation as the quirky, outrageous Pierce Hawthorne. But just when things seemed to be turning around, Chase's ego took over. Behind the scenes, he began clashing with writers and producers over the show's direction and his character's role. In 2012, tensions exploded. According to multiple reports, Chase launched into a furious rant on set, allegedly using offensive language when referring to other characters. It was a meltdown that shocked the cast and crew and signaled the end of the road for him. Not long after, Chase was booted from the series. His character was written off, and his reputation took a major hit. Instead of rebuilding, Chase doubled down, taking jabs at Community in interviews and blaming the show for his downfall. It was a move that only worsened his image in the world of Hollywood gossip. From icon to industry outcast, Chevy Chase is a cautionary tale of how pride, entitlement, and unchecked outbursts can bring even the brightest careers crashing down. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett had the world at his feet in 2015. His breakout role on Empire catapulted him into the spotlight, setting the stage for what looked like a promising Hollywood career. But then came one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals in recent memory. In 2019, Smollett told police he was the target of a hate-fueled street attack, claiming he'd been jumped by men yelling racist and homophobic slurs. "I look down and I see that there's a rope around my neck," he said in an emotional recounting of the alleged incident. Outrage followed. Celebrities, politicians, and fans alike rallied behind him until the narrative began to unravel. Investigators discovered that Smollett had allegedly paid 2 acquaintances to stage the attack, possibly to raise his public profile. Though he maintained his innocence, in 2022 he was convicted of filing a false police report and sentenced to 150 days in jail. And that will start today, right here, right now, the judge declared in court. Smollett's appeal was denied in 2023, but in a surprising twist, his conviction was reversed the following year, adding yet another layer of confusion to a case that had already stunned the public. Felicity Huffman and Loughlin. Felicity Huffman and Loughlin were once beloved staples of American television. Huffman shined in Desperate Housewives and earned critical acclaim in Transamerica, while Loughlin was a familiar face from Full House and 90210. Both seemed untouchable until they were caught in the middle of one of the biggest Hollywood gossip firestorms of the decade. In 2019, the explosive Varsity Blues scandal exposed how wealthy parents had manipulated the college admissions system, bribing officials and faking credentials to get their children into elite schools. Among those indicted, Huffman and Loughlin. "I know this seems crazy," Huffman admitted later, "but it felt like my only option to give my daughter a future." That decision cost her 14 days behind bars. Loughlin, who also faced public outrage, was sentenced to 2 months in prison. Though both actresses have quietly returned to minor roles, the damage was done. Once Hollywood darlings, their reputations now carry a permanent stain. Their careers, a fraction of what they used to be. Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon, the so-called America's sweetheart, had a not-so-sweet meltdown in 2013 that instantly became one of the most unforgettable Hollywood scandals of the year. The scene: a Georgia State Trooper's dashcam captured Witherspoon and her then-husband, Jim Toth, during a late-night traffic stop in Atlanta. Toth was pulled over for suspected DUI, but it was Reese who stole the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Ignoring police orders to stay in the car, she stepped out and snapped, "Do you know my name, sir?" before following it up with the now infamous, "You're about to find out who I am." The officer stayed calm, replying, "That's fine, I'm not real worried about you, ma'am." The footage quickly spread across the internet, turning Reese's entitled behavior into a global headline. Later, Witherspoon issued a public apology, saying she was deeply embarrassed and admitted, "I have no idea what I was talking about. I know better." But the damage was done. For someone who built a career on charm and likability, this incident was a harsh reminder. Even the most beloved stars aren't above the law. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor was no stranger to drama, but in 1989, the Hollywood legend took it to another level. Known for her glitz, glamour, and unapologetic sass, Gabor turned a routine traffic stop in Beverly Hills into a full-blown spectacle. that still echoes through red carpet fashion history. Pulled over for driving without a valid license or registration, the Hungarian-American icon didn't just argue, she slapped the officer. Yes, slapped, right across the face. She was immediately arrested and charged with battery, among other offenses, and when asked why she was found guilty, her answer was as bold as ever, because I was Gabor. Gabor later insisted the officer was rude, but let's face it, striking law enforcement because you didn't get star treatment isn't exactly a winning courtroom defense. It was a classic case of celebrity entitlement colliding with reality, and the fallout was just as unforgettable as the woman herself. Blake. In 2001, Hollywood was rocked when actor Robert Blake, famous for playing tough guy Detective Beretta, was named the prime suspect in the shocking death of his wife, Bonnie Lee Barkley. She was discovered in their parked car just steps from the restaurant where the couple had dined that night. Blake's story raised eyebrows immediately. He claimed he had returned inside to retrieve a handgun he'd forgotten, only to come back and find her fatally wounded. As the investigation deepened, prosecutors pointed to a troubled marriage full of tension and mistrust. They argued Blake had both motive and opportunity. Yet in a dramatic twist, the criminal court found him not guilty, citing lack of evidence to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But the story didn't end with the verdict. In a separate civil trial, Blake was found liable for Bonnie's death and was ordered to pay millions to her family. The conflicting outcomes ignited public debate and became a case study in how justice can take two very different paths in criminal and civil court. This wasn't just a Hollywood scandal, it was a story that blurred the line between fiction and reality, leaving a legacy of doubt, debate, and broken fame. Mabel Normand. In 1922, the glamorous world of early cinema was rocked by one of the most chilling Hollywood scandals of its time, the unexplained death of director William Desmond Taylor. Found lifeless in his Los Angeles home, the case sent shockwaves through the industry. And at the heart of the storm, comedic actress Mabel Normand. Though she was never arrested or officially charged, Normand had visited Taylor just hours before the tragedy. That alone was enough for headlines to explode with wild speculation. The public couldn't help but wonder, did she know more than she let on? Police were unable to uncover any concrete proof against her, but that didn't matter to the gossip-hungry tabloids. They dug into her past, reviving old controversies and painting her as a symbol of scandal rather than stardom. As her name was dragged through the mud, her once rising career began to crumble under the weight of suspicion and whispers. Despite her undeniable talent and charm, Mabel Normand would never fully outrun the dark cloud that hovered after that night. Her legacy remains a haunting reminder of how quickly fame can turn in the face of mystery and Hollywood gossip. Paul Michael Kelly. In 1927, actor Paul Kelly's life and career spiraled into chaos after a violent clash with fellow performer Ray Raymond turned fatal. The heated dispute quickly escalated, and when Raymond later died from his injuries, Kelly found himself at the center of a courtroom drama that would grip the nation. Charged with manslaughter, Kelly's trial became a media frenzy, fueling one of the earliest Hollywood scandals to ever stain the silver screen. Prosecutors painted him as reckless and dangerous, and the jury ultimately agreed he was sentenced to 2 years behind bars in San Quentin. Most actors would have vanished into obscurity after something so damaging. But Kelly's story took an unexpected turn. Against all odds, he returned to the spotlight once released, this time more seasoned, more intense, and surprisingly well received. Critics praised his performances, and slowly he rebuilt his reputation. Still, that dark chapter could never be erased. Paul Kelly's name remains etched in the annals of Hollywood history, not just for his acting, but for how dangerously close his real life came to destroying his career. Robert Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty wasn't just a Hollywood icon, he was a storm in a suit. With movie star looks and effortless charm, Beatty didn't follow the Hollywood spotlight. He commanded it. But behind that polished smile was a man with a reputation that made people uneasy for good reason. His love life became the stuff of legend. Rumors claimed he'd been with thousands of women, co-stars, models, even figures tied to political circles. Whether those numbers were real or inflated didn't matter, everyone believed them. But Warren Beatty wasn't just reckless in romance, he was equally unpredictable on set. Directors called him brilliant but impossible. If a script didn't fit his vision, it got rewritten. If a scene felt wrong, production paused until it met his standards. He could bend a project or a person to his will with just a phone call. That grip on control wasn't just obsession, it was how he built an empire. Then came the plot twist no one saw coming. In the 1990s, Beatty settled down with actress Annette Bening, the bad boy of Hollywood choosing stability. It shocked everyone. But by then, the legend was already written. One actress once said, "I've never known anyone more charming or more dangerous." Beatty didn't crash and burn like so many others. He mastered the game, balancing power, charm, and calculated chaos. His story isn't just another chapter in Hollywood scandals, it's a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous stars are the ones who never lose control. Mickey Rooney. Before there were mega franchises and social media fame, there was Mickey Rooney, the child superstar who owned the box office in the 1930s and 40s. As the face of the Andy Hardy films, he made millions before he could legally toast to his own success. At his peak, he was the highest-paid actor in America, but the fame that built him never let him go. Rooney's real life was a tornado of chaos. 8 marriages, yes, 8, each one a tabloid-worthy storm. From beauty queens to starlets like Ava Gardner, his love life was fueled by jealousy, conflict, and shattered illusions. And behind closed doors, things were just as turbulent. He blew through fortunes with high-stakes gambling and found himself owing debts to people no one wanted to cross. As time passed, the drama didn't fade, it just changed shape. In his later years, Rooney stunned fans by accusing his own stepson of betrayal and financial exploitation. The same Hollywood that once lifted him up became the backdrop to some of the most heartbreaking Hollywood scandals of his life. On set, he was a firecracker, unpredictable, intense, and often impossible to manage. Directors never knew if they'd get brilliance or burnout. His mood swings were legendary, and his appetite for the party scene left many around him drained. "I never had a childhood," he confessed. "I just had a career." And that career never really ended. Into his 90s, Rooney was still taking roles, still giving interviews, still performing, clinging to the spotlight as if stepping away meant confronting the emptiness fame had tried to hide. Mickey Rooney wasn't just a cautionary tale, he was the caution, wrapped in talent, trapped by legacy. George Reeves. George Reeves was once the face of truth and justice, America's original Superman. On screen, he stood for everything heroic, but behind the scenes, his life unraveled into one of the darkest Hollywood scandals of the era. In 1959, Reeves was discovered lifeless in his bedroom, a single gunshot wound to the head. Authorities labeled it a suicide almost immediately, but the whispers in Hollywood told a far different story. Reeves had been entangled in a volatile relationship with Toni Mannix, the wife of a powerful MGM executive, rumored to have dangerous connections. When Reeves tried to end things and move on with a younger woman, his world shifted. Friends say he became paranoid, he felt watched, followed, even hunted. Some close to him believed he wanted to leave the industry altogether. Others feared he had uncovered something he was never meant to know. That fateful night, guests were downstairs when the fatal shot rang out upstairs, yet no one saw anything. The scene was bizarre. No fingerprints on the weapon, no burns, and far too many unanswered questions. Was it a tragic end by his own hand, or was someone else pulling the strings? Some whisper it was jealousy, others a cover-up. Decades later, mystery still surrounds the man who once symbolized hope. As one journalist put it, Superman was supposed to save people, but no one saved him. On a scale from 1 to 9, how suspicious do you think George Reeves's death really was? 1 equals sign, no mystery at all. 9 equals sign, 100% cover-up. Drop your number in the comments and tell us why. Was it a tragic ending or something far more sinister? Spencer Tracy. To the world, Spencer Tracy was the image of calm authority, a classic Hollywood icon with the face of a hero and the talent to match. But away from the cameras, his life was anything but composed. Tracy lived a double life. Publicly, he was a devoted Catholic family man who never divorced his wife. Privately, he spent over 20 years in a hidden relationship with Katherine Hepburn. While the press painted them as close companions, those in the inner circle knew they were far more than that. Still, Tracy's inner torment kept them from ever finding peace. Behind the scenes, Tracy's drinking was more than a habit, it was a storm. Colleagues learned to brace themselves when he vanished for days at a time, returning suddenly as if nothing had happened. On set, he could be warm and magnetic one moment, then cold and volatile the next. His outbursts, emotional and physical, left cast and crew walking on eggshells. One director famously said that working with him felt like walking on glass with bare feet. Yet the studio system turned a blind eye. Tracy's brilliance was a box office guarantee, and Hepburn often stepped in to shield him from fallout. But the price of maintaining the illusion was heavy. In private, he battled relentless guilt, spiritual conflict, and deep emotional struggles, trapped between faith, fame, and a life he could never fully claim. Tracy passed away in 1967, just 2 weeks after wrapping his final film. He once admitted, "I had demons, and they never let me go." His story remains one of the most tragic and complex chapters in Hollywood scandals, a reminder that even legends carry burdens the spotlight can't erase. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando wasn't just a legend, he was a force of nature that shook Hollywood to its core. From the moment he stormed onto the screen in A Streetcar Named Desire, the industry would never be the same. Brando brought raw emotion, unmatched intensity, and an energy that couldn't be contained. But behind the brilliance was a man in chaos. Volatile and unpredictable, Brando's personal life was a whirlwind. He was known for romantic entanglements with both women and men, turbulent marriages, and a temperament that could flip in an instant. He once admitted, "I'm not sure I'm a human being." That quote revealed more truth than he realized. His private life was scarred by heartbreak. His son, Christian, was involved in a tragic incident that shook the family, and years later, his daughter Cheyenne's devastating end pushed Brando into a spiral he never truly escaped. Off-screen, he challenged the Hollywood machine, defying studios, refusing to conform, and famously turning down his Oscar for The Godfather. His political stands were as bold as his performances, but his behavior often alienated even his closest allies. Co-stars called him both a genius and a nightmare, warm one moment, ice-cold the next. Brando lived as if constantly battling himself. His performances were unforgettable because they were fueled by real, unresolved pain. He was the face of a new era, but also a warning sign of the turmoil that lurked beneath the glamour of Hollywood scandals. And if you think Brando was dangerous, wait until you hear about the next star whose past was so disturbing, the studio tried to keep it locked away for decades. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was a towering figure in early cinema, a legend whose silent films made the world laugh through tears. With his bowler hat and iconic moustache, he created magic on screen. But behind the scenes, Chaplin's personal life was filled with unsettling contradictions. He had a repeated tendency that raised eyebrows, pursuing relationships with much younger women. At 35, he married 16-year-old Lita Gray, and their union quickly spiraled into turmoil. Gray would later reveal that Chaplin was controlling and emotionally manipulative. The picture-perfect clown had a darker side few saw. Then came a courtroom storm. Actress Joan Barry accused Chaplin of fathering her child. Even though scientific tests said otherwise, the judge still ordered him to pay support. The press had a field day, and the scandal became front-page news across America. Chaplin's troubles didn't stop at romance. In the heat of the Red Scare, he was branded a political threat, allegedly sympathizing with communist ideals. While abroad in 1952, the US government made a bold move. It banned him from re-entering the country. Chaplin, once a king of American cinema, never officially became a US citizen. "I remain just one thing and one thing only, and that is a clown," he once said in a now iconic quote. But even celebrity interviews couldn't mask the complexity behind that public image. Before we dive deeper into Hollywood's darkest secrets, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? And don't go anywhere, because the mystery behind George Reeves' tragic end is one you won't want to miss. Fatty Arbuckle. In the golden age of silent film, Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was a true giant, both in talent and popularity. Known for his slapstick genius and his close friendship with Charlie Chaplin, Arbuckle ruled the comedy scene. But in 1921, his world crumbled in just one weekend, and Hollywood would never be the same. At a lavish hotel party in San Francisco, something went horribly wrong. By the next morning, young actress Virginia Rapp had fallen gravely ill, and the finger of blame pointed straight at Arbuckle. What followed wasn't just a legal battle, it was an all-out media storm. Headlines branded him a monster. Church groups condemned him. The studios, they ran for cover, dragged through not one but 3 headline-making trials. Arbuckle was eventually acquitted. In fact, the final jury went so far as to apologize, stating there was not the slightest proof of guilt. But by then, the verdict that mattered most, public opinion, was already sealed. Arbuckle's name was blacklisted across Hollywood. His films were pulled. His reputation became a cautionary tale, a poster child for Hollywood scandals and the darker side of fame. Even under a pseudonym, work was scarce. He tried to rebuild, directing obscure projects, taking what little he could get. But the stain of the scandal never fully faded. Ironically, just hours after signing a new film deal that might have revived his career, Arbuckle died of a heart attack in 1933. A tragic ending to a story that shook the foundations of the film industry. His fall didn't just ruin a man, it reshaped Hollywood. In response to the uproar, the industry introduced the Hays Code, its first major set of moral guidelines to prevent another public meltdown. Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter was the poster boy of 1950s cinema, blonde, charming, and clean-cut. To the public, he was the dream. But behind the carefully staged smiles and red carpet poses was a man living in quiet agony, and in reality, Tab Hunter was trapped. At a time when the truth could end a career, he was forced to play a role off-screen just as much as on. Studio executives built his image from the ground up, arranging photo ops with starlets and orchestrating fake dates to keep the rumors buried. Paparazzi were fed only what the studio approved. The message was clear: be what we tell you to be, or lose everything. Hunter was constantly on edge. In the early 1950s, he was briefly detained at a private gathering, something that, if leaked, could have obliterated his rising stardom. "I couldn't be who I was," he later revealed. "Not in that system, not back then." He spent years living 2 separate lives, Hollywood heartthrob by day, hidden self by night. As the golden era faded, so did the spotlight. But Tab Hunter didn't vanish. Decades later, in a powerful wave of celebrity interviews and in his own memoir, he finally told the world what it cost to be a star in chains. The audience was stunned, not by scandal, but by the sheer weight he had carried in silence. One critic put it best: Tab Hunter wasn't just a matinee idol, he was a prisoner of the system who lived long enough to escape it. James Dean. James Dean didn't need a long career to become a legend. Just 3 unforgettable films and a life lived on the edge. With his smoldering glare and raw energy, he captured the soul of a generation spiraling into chaos. But beyond the screen, Dean's reckless passion for speed made him a real-life danger to himself. He wasn't just acting like a rebel, he was one. Obsessed with racing, Dean pushed his machines and his luck far past the red line. Motorcycles, fast cars, back roads, he craved adrenaline. Friends watched in fear as he ran red lights, tore through turns, and laughed about near disasters. More than once, someone whispered that he didn't care if he lived or died. And maybe he didn't. "I live every day like I'm going to die tomorrow," he once said. "And maybe I will." That eerie quote came true in 1955 when his Porsche, nicknamed the Little Bastard, met its end on a California highway. Dean was just 24. His sudden death didn't end his story, it exploded it. Whispers of secret relationships, old Hollywood power games, and even a so-called curse tied to the wrecked car became fuel for decades of Hollywood gossip. The truth? Still unknown. But the myth of James Dean only grew stronger. He didn't just represent youthful rebellion, he defined it. And like so many rebels before and after, his story ended far too soon. Tony Curtis. He was the golden boy of the silver screen, Tony Curtis, with his dazzling smile and blockbuster roles in classics like Some Like It Hot and Spartacus. On screen, he was irresistible. Off screen, he was chasing thrills that would eventually cost him everything. Curtis wasn't just famous, he was addicted to being adored. His life became a whirlwind of luxury, late nights, and excess. Known for his countless romantic flings, Marilyn Monroe reportedly among them, he openly bragged about conquests in the hundreds. But what started as Hollywood gossip soon turned into something darker. By the 1970s, Curtis was sinking fast. He fell deep into substance abuse, famously saying, "If you remember the 70s, you weren't really there, and I barely was." Directors stopped calling, producers dreaded working with him, his personal life in shambles. 6 marriages, 6 children, and a legacy of broken relationships. Even Jamie Lee Curtis, his daughter, spoke out about his absence as a father. One daughter was reportedly cut out of his will entirely. Still, even in the wreckage, Tony Curtis never lost that old-school charm. In celebrity interviews, he came across as brutally honest, fully aware of the damage he'd caused. "I turned my life into a circus," he once said, "and sometimes I forgot who the ringmaster was." Rock Hudson. To millions, Rock Hudson was the dream, Hollywood's ultimate leading man. With his tall frame, striking looks, and effortless charm, he ruled the silver screen through the golden age of cinema, but behind the perfect smile was a secret that defined an entire generation of Hollywood gossip. In an era where authenticity could cost a man everything, Hudson was forced to live a double life. The studios crafted his image with surgical precision, even arranging a staged marriage to his secretary, just to silence the whispers. He couldn't drop the act, not in interviews, not at parties, not even at home. Close friends guarded his truth like a state secret. Relationships had to be hidden in shadows. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Hudson once confessed, "I just want to be loved, but I have to pretend to be someone else to earn it." Then in 1985, the illusion shattered. Hudson was diagnosed with a mysterious illness that carried a heavy stigma at the time. His condition was no longer something he could conceal, and overnight the world saw him differently. The news rocked America. The press didn't just report it, they exploded it. Some fans turned away in disbelief, others stood by him, now seeing the weight he had carried for decades. But one thing was clear. Hudson's honesty in the final chapter of his life forced Hollywood and the public to face truths it had long ignored. His death that same year marked the end of a career built on perfection, but his legacy became something deeper. A man who dared to show the world who he truly was, even when it cost him everything. John Barrymore. John Barrymore was born into American acting royalty. With the Barrymore name behind him and a voice made for Shakespeare, he wasn't just an actor, he was theatre's golden child. In the 1920s and 30s, no one rivaled his power on stage or screen. But as the curtain rose on his fame, a darker addiction was already waiting in the wings. At first, Barrymore's lifestyle was the stuff of glamorous Hollywood gossip, champagne-soaked nights, elite parties, and razor-sharp one-liners. But the charm faded fast. The drinks got stronger, the nights got longer, and soon the great Hamlet of his generation could barely remember his lines. The decline was devastating. Barrymore missed rehearsals, arrived on set in no condition to work, and started taking roles far beneath his talent just to scrape by. Once revered, he became a running joke in the very town that once bowed to his genius. Friends tried to help, but Barrymore made it hard. He would vanish without a trace, only to be found weeks later, disheveled, penniless, and lost in a crowd of strangers. His once grand home dissolved into chaos. One producer admitted, "John Barrymore was the only man I knew who could outdrink his own legacy." But it wasn't just the alcohol. His behavior grew more reckless with time. Disruptive stunts at parties, shameless flirtations, and open insults aimed at the industry's most powerful. By the end, Barrymore had burned every bridge. The fame, the money, the admiration, it was all gone. When he died in 1942 at just 60, it wasn't as a legend, but as a cautionary tale. The man once crowned as theatre's king had been undone by his own self-destruction. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was the ultimate symbol of old Hollywood charm. Dashing, magnetic, and seemingly untouchable, he played Rhett Butler like he was born for the role, and the world adored him. But behind that golden smile was a man surrounded by whispered secrets and carefully buried scandals. One of the most chilling stories came from actress Loretta Young, who co-starred with Gable in Call of the Wild. Years later, she revealed a painful chapter that had been kept hidden for decades. During filming, something happened that changed her life forever. She later gave birth in secret, disappeared from the spotlight, and returned pretending she had adopted a child. The truth, too explosive for the times, was buried under layers of studio silence. Gable's off-screen life was just as chaotic. His reputation as a relentless womanizer was no secret behind the scenes, with numerous affairs, some involving married women, swept under the rug. MGM's publicity machine worked overtime to keep his image clean. The studio fixed everything back then. One publicist once said, "You just had to keep the press fed and the police out of it." To fans, Gable was Hollywood royalty. But those closest to him knew the truth. He lived in a world of secrets, cover-ups, and emotional wreckage. His charm may have dazzled the cameras, but behind the curtain he was a storm that left lasting damage, an enduring icon of Hollywood gossip, at its most carefully controlled. And just when you think you've heard it all, the next star's battle was so fierce, not even Katherine Hepburn could drown out the noise. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum had a kind of untouchable swagger, cool, cynical, and rebellious to the core. He didn't just play tough guys on screen, he was one. And in 1948, that bad boy image went from fiction to fact when Mitchum was arrested at a Hollywood party for lighting up something he shouldn't have. Back then, a charge like that could crush a career, but Mitchum, he just shrugged it off. "It's just like being busted for holding a beer," he told reporters. He spent time behind bars, but instead of ruining him, the scandal skyrocketed his fame. The public didn't reject him, they were drawn to him. In true Hollywood gossip fashion, danger only made him hotter. But Mitchum didn't stop there. He was infamous for brawling in bars, clashing with co-stars, and mouthing off to directors. He lived without filters, and somehow it worked. His most legendary quote, "The only difference between me and my characters is I don't shoot people." And it stuck because it felt like the raw truth. While others in Hollywood hid their chaos, Mitchum wore his recklessness like a badge. He walked the line but never crossed it too far. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn wasn't just a Hollywood heartthrob, he was chaos wrapped in charm. With a striking face, a smooth British drawl, and a wild streak as bold as his on-screen sword fights, Flynn captivated millions. But behind the curtain, his real life was darker than any pirate tale he ever filmed. By the 1940s, his name was splashed across headlines, not for blockbuster hits, but for explosive Hollywood scandals. In 1942, Flynn faced serious allegations involving underage girls. Though he was ultimately acquitted, the court of public opinion never really let him go, and the rumors only grew wilder from there. Stories surfaced of hidden peepholes and secret mirrors built into his mansion, tools, some claimed, that he used to spy on unsuspecting guests. Flynn didn't deny his reckless appetite. In his own words, "I like my whiskey old and my women young." That quote alone became his legacy and his curse. Whispers also linked him to international smuggling and wartime espionage, with rumors of dangerous connections overseas. Nothing was ever proven, but wherever chaos stirred, Flynn's shadow wasn't far behind. By the time he hit 50, years of hard living had taken their toll. He died surrounded by whispers and myth, an icon whose fame couldn't outrun his demons. And believe it or not, the chaos starts here, because up next is a Hollywood funny man with a life story that's anything but a joke. In the end, fame can't shield anyone from consequences, not even the most powerful in Hollywood. These 20 celebrities thought their status gave them a free pass, but their own actions wrote a very different script. From public meltdowns to jail cells, their stories serve as cautionary tales in a world obsessed with image. Which fall from grace stunned you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And for more jaw-dropping Hollywood scandals, don't forget to subscribe. You won't believe what's coming next.